And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show right here on ESPN New Hampshire. Glad you guys could join us. And we'll give a shout out to all of our radio affiliates on ESPN radio stations and Fox Sports radio stations, wherever you may be listening. Don't forget to check out our website, www.billycboxing.com. And while you're there, check out my book. As a matter of fact, get a copy of it from Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. Tom Molyneux from Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet is available right now. Check it out. Find out why we got 5 stars on Barnes & Noble and on Amazon.com. Joining us right now is Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazzard. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's up, Billy?
What's happening, man?
Well, the snow is melting. Nice day today.
Hey, you got more than me. I got stuck in Florida. I had to wait 2 extra days to just make it north. I mean, I'm watching that on TV, and I'm like, oh, man, I'm not going to drive into that. And tell you guys got hammered. It stopped like by just south of Poughkeepsie, nothing, all the way north to where I am. We didn't get anything from that storm.
Yeah, I know. I got a good friend up in Erie, Pennsylvania, who usually gets hammered. Western Pennsylvania usually gets hammered with every snowstorm, and he just had a little icing, and that was it. I was hunkered down here, and I don't have a problem with the snow. My big problem is when you lose the power. That's what makes it miserable, man. When you have these power outages, you can't watch TV, you can't listen to the radio, everything goes dark and it's cold, then it becomes miserable. But, it wasn't really that bad just being in the house, watching the games and, drinking hot chocolate and putting on a few pounds, and that was it.
I tell you what, Larry, we have all become the biggest pansy asses. I mean, think about it. Our grandparents, great grandparents. I mean, what they must have felt like, when that first light bulb worked, and they finally got electric, or when they got to, flush a toilet inside a house. I mean, come on, it wasn't that long ago, and people flip out now if they don't get an internet connection. Oh my God, I can't live. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, we have evolved into a bunch of spoiled brats, man.
Yes, we have.
That's what it is.
we certainly have. We certainly. I'll tell you what. I had a buddy I was talking to from where is he? He said Reading, Pennsylvania. He said they got hammered. He said they had
really.
Yeah, he said they had 36 inches of snow.
Ooh,
wow. And it all fell within an hour and a half. That's really hard to battle,
man,
when it's coming down that fast. But
yeah, well, and it's amazing. It's amazing how, once they start plowing and everybody starts blowing the snow out and shoveling, a day or so after such a terrible blizzard, a storm, it's almost like, like it didn't happen. When you get out on the main roads, like on the highway, you see all the snow on the side of the road, but the highways are all clear. It's like it never happened,
You know what? Like come April and May, it's gonna be like it never happened too. You'll be like snow. You'll be thinking of summertime, But
telling you, man.
Anyway, this past weekend, Danny Garcia fought Robert Guerrero. And we got to watch it on prime time television. I loved it. The fact that we saw pretty much 3 really good fights on that card.
Yeah, it was good.
Let's start off with the first fight, the Aaron Martinez against Sammy Vasquez. I was a little surprised considering that Aaron Martinez had just beaten what's his name, the former junior welterweight titleist. I'm going blank here, but he's known for his heart and determination, and he ended up quitting on his stool after a couple of really good rounds. I couldn't figure it out. What was your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, he wasn't in. I thought that the other kid was in control of the fight. He wasn't, in my opinion, he wasn't winning the fight. I mean, he was on his way to losing, but I don't question his heart. I figured, the injury had to be legitimate, because he's not that type of fighter to quit. You know, I mean, he was giving his all, but I think that you know, he was being overwhelmed by the skill and talent of the opponent. You know, so you know, it happened, and he got injured, and that was it. You know, it was just one of those odd things. I mean, it was a close fight, very entertaining, but you know, what can you say? I mean, you know, those fights, you know, they can go either way. I mean, these guys, they were giving their all. I thought it was an exciting fight, but he was behind on my scorecard in almost every round. So
yeah.
You know, I guess
he was definitely behind on everyone's score. Well, on mine too, and I agree with you. I don't know if he won a round, you know, but you know, he's that kind of fighter that just comes back. You know, I guess he hurt his elbow or whatever, but the next.
I think Vasquez figured him out early, Billy, and you can see the superior boxing skill. You know, throughout each round, even every time he forged an attack, Vasquez would sit back there. He had very good defensive skills, and he would overwhelm him, and he would do enough to win every round. I mean, the fight was competitive, but I think Vasquez had him figured out early on, and I think he was in for a tough night either way. So, you know, like I said, I don't question the injury. But who knows? A lot of times these guys nowadays, you know, they look for the easy way out sometimes too. So, you know, I have no reason to question it. It was a good fight. It was entertaining.
You know, and which brings me a great segue to the next fight that we watched on that heavyweight fight between Amir Mansour going up against Dominic Brazil. And what a fight that was. And, you know, I'm watching this fight. And I'm saying to myself, first of all, I didn't realize how big Dominic Brazil was. You know, I mean, he was a monster, you know. And
6'7".
Yeah. And I'm saying to myself, you know, here's an example of a guy who's been coddled and, you know, he's been handed easy fights. And I'm watching Amir Mansour just dominate the fight. In my opinion, he was dominating the fight and landing some crushing shots. Yeah, crushing shots. And I started saying to myself, man, Brazil at least got a solid chin, and he was game, and he was this and that. And then all of a sudden, the stoppage in the corner, and I'm watching Mansour's own corner throwing the hat down, jumping up and down. They're all pissed off that he quit on his stool. Come to find out, you know, damaged jaw, and he bites through his tongue. And you know, I mean, when I started seeing that people were questioning him, I said to myself, why would a guy, unless he just couldn't go on, why would a guy who was winning the fight, who had Brazil in some serious trouble, he's not just going to quit? I mean, I think the guy's got a lot of heart. I don't discredit him at all for that. I just think that it was an unfortunate injury. It happened, and he couldn't continue. What was your thoughts on the fight and the outcome?
Well, I agree with you 100%. Hardcore, I thought was ahead. Every round. And there's no doubt in my mind that this kid did not quit. I mean, sometimes you have to look at a person's background, and the background kind of helps give them a little credibility, okay? And I say that in this respect. It's no secret that this kid has done about 8.5 years in the joint, right? He's 43 years old. He comes to fight. You know, you remember the fight, that one loss he had was against Steve Cunningham. You know that. Okay? Tough fight up in Bethlehem. There were some questionable things that happened, in my opinion, in that bout with Cunningham and the referee. But we don't need to get into that. But the big question that I had with Mansour was that, I'm saying, are you telling me that this guy has got a $3 mouthpiece fighting at this level of a professional career? I don't know exactly what the injury was, but first I thought it was a broken jaw. Okay, if it's a broken jaw, then I can understand it because that could happen. I've refereed fights guys, they got their mouth open, they get hit with a shot, and they get their jaw broke. But when I heard that he bit his tongue, I'm like, well, I'd like to know if he had a custom-made mouthpiece, a professional custom-made mouthpiece by a dentist that someone fighting at that level should have. I certainly hope so. Then I'll say, then okay, freak accident or whatever, too bad it happened. But no way did it ever cross my mind that he quit. You know, I thought he was fighting the fight wrong, okay, because I would have loved to see that fight go longer to see if he was going to last at that pace, because it was a tremendous pace, and he was winning the fight, in my opinion, all the way. But there's no question in my mind that it was a legitimate injury, and that if he could have continued, I do believe that he would have tried. So, you know, that's what I have to say about that. And I agree with you in terms of him winning. I thought he was winning most of the round, although I thought that he should have had a different strategy because, you know, fighting a guy as tall as Brazil, and I thought that Brazil was fighting him totally wrong, not using his height or his jab or his movement, anything. And then once again, I begin to question, you know, who's teaching these guys and where the real trainers, you know. But that's basically it for that one, Billy.
Well, you know, Mansour, I agree. It looked like he was rapidly running out of gas, but, you know, I just don't look at him as a quitter. But I was wondering about that, about biting through his tongue with a mouthpiece in his mouth. I mean, I would think that would be very hard. First of all, a mouthpiece keeps your tongue from going in line of your teeth anyway, you know. So
right. I don't understand that. I really don't understand how he bit through his tongue, you know.
But then again, I also witnessed Mike Tyson bite Evander Holyfield's ear with a mouthpiece. No, I know, but Tyson's mouthpiece.
Yeah, when he bit Evander, didn't he spit the mouthpiece out first?
You know, I remember him spitting a mouthpiece out when he was on the ground, when he was on the canvas, but I don't remember him spitting it out first and then biting the ear. I remember him spitting the ear out, but
really?
Oh, I remember him spitting a piece of the ear out. I remember watching that live, then watching it in slow motion replay over and over and over. You know, I mean, anyway, that's another.
You know,
story.
that brings up an interesting question. I want to find out. Because I was at the fight, and I thought Mike had spit his mouthpiece out or didn't have it in coming out for the round because he was planning to do it. I don't know. You know, I find it kind of hard to do, especially you've seen the custom-made mouthpieces, haven't you, Billy?
Yeah. They
so,
fit.
You know, it's very difficult to bite through those custom-made mouthpieces that are, you know, made by a dentist.
Well, they keep your jaw in place, and
everything.
And you can't even take them out easily. That's why when you see these guys ripping them out, I mean, that's why, you know. But you're right. I didn't even think of, you know, what did he do? Grab one at the sports store and boil water and bite down on it in the dressing room?
I'm trying to figure. That's been the lingering question that I've had since that fight. You know, and you know, it's just a strange thing to bite to be able to bite through your tongue through a mouthpiece, unless it was one of those cheap $3 mouthpieces that you put it in hot water and boil through it or whatever.
Right, you could bite through those. You could definitely bite through those. I used those in football. You could bite through those.
Sure.
The main event on that night, Danny Garcia against Robert Guerrero. We talked about it earlier. What was your thoughts on that fight? I mean, to me, I was just saying earlier that to me it looked like Danny Garcia was two different fighters. The first half of the fight, Robert Guerrero I thought was having his way, and then Danny Garcia shifts into you know, another gear, and just starts putting on a display of accuracy, hand speed, defensive prowess, where he was avoiding punches and, just looked like a different fighter. And, I mean, that's great for him. But what the hell kind of a game plan do you employ where you give up so much, and take that kind of a chance? He was taking a beating. It wasn't like he was controlling the beating. He was taking a beating in that first half of the fight. What's your thoughts?
Well, I was going to say, just in time, when you say the second half, he took charge of that fight just in time, because I had it very close because of the early rounds in which Guerrero seemed like he was in total control of the fight. And I'm like, whoa. I'm saying, look at this. You know what I mean? I'm saying, oh, Garcia stepped up here, and now he's got a little bit too much that he can handle. But then it seemed like something just came over him in the second half of that fight, and he took total charge. I said, wow, just in time. And that's probably why Guerrero was really upset, thinking that he won the fight. But I feel that Danny Garcia did pull it out, just in time. I had it very close, but I thought that he won. And he put on a superb the second half of the fight. He really looked good.
He did.
He looked good that second half.
Yeah.
So wow, he should have fought the whole fight like
exactly.
that.
That's my point. I mean, one of the biggest mistakes that trainers make, and even if you go outside of boxing and you look at coaches or managers, when you overcoach, overmanage, over make something that's simple overcomplicated, like in a boxing, where you employ a game plan that becomes so complicated, it's kind of productive. And if that was the game plan, for me, I could see a fighter that wants to take an opponent into later rounds, but you don't take the beating to get him there. You got to change to a different plan. If your plan is to try to take a fighter into later rounds, you're supposed to do it without taking damage. Once you start taking damage, it's time to rethink the plan. I mean, at least that's what I think.
Well, Manny Stewart once told me, he said that, he said, Larry, he said that there is a style. There's a opposite style for every style. There's an opposite style that is designed to overcome that style. You follow what I'm saying, Billy?
Yeah.
It's like if you're a boxer puncher, then there's a style that's designed to defeat you. And Danny Garcia, what you saw in the second half of the fight was basically the way that he always fought. That's what made him, that's what made him a champion, and what made him an exciting fighter. I think that fighters should always stick with what got them there. Sometimes, looking at these videos and these tapes of the opponent, sometimes it could be helpful, but sometimes it could work against you. And that could have been the case here. If Danny Garcia had come right out fighting his regular style, the way that he normally fights, he may have even stopped Guerrero, early on, with the pressure, with the movement, with the boxing, because the second half of that fight looked like a mismatch, in my opinion.
It did. Okay? It did.
Yes, it did.
And you want to know the funny thing? Guerrero's corner, his father's telling him, stop slugging, box him, you're a better boxer. And I think that second half of the fight showed, no, not so much.
Not.
That Danny was definitely the better boxer, there's no question about that.
Right. And Danny was actually, I don't know whether what his strategy was, but the strategy was completely wrong in the first half of the fight, and hooray for whoever in the corner, whether it be his father or whomever, discovered, hey, man, hold it. That strategy. Let's just go back to what got us here. And that's how he pulled that fight out. And I think that a lot of fighters need to do more of that and just leave those videos alone, man.
I know.
When you got the skill, and you have always come through with your style, stick with that. That's what I love. That's what I loved about that's what made Mike Tyson. Guys like Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield, that's what made those guys such great fighters. You very rarely saw them alter their style of fighting. When Holyfield, a perfect example of that is when Holyfield fought George Foreman. He fought George Foreman the same way he fought anybody else. You know, you would have thought that he was, well, maybe I'll take into consideration that he's an older guy. I'll move around, stay away, and tire him out. No, he got right in there and he banged with George the way that he always. And at one point, he almost stopped George in that fight. You know, Mike Tyson was the same way. You knew what to expect. No matter who he fought, you knew how he was going to come out and fight. He didn't sit back and have some strategy designed for this guy or that guy. He fought his style, and that's what made him such a great heavyweight. And I think that more of these young fighters should do the same thing. And that way they'll display, display their greater talents in most, if not all, of their fights.
Yeah, I agree, man. You never know with these guys, but big fight this weekend. Sergey Kovalev against Jean Pascal, the second fight. What's your thoughts on this fight? How do you think it's going to go?
I don't see any difference.
Yeah, right.
Kovalev, I don't see any difference in that. This is just an exercise in futility for Pascal. I mean, in my opinion, he can't beat Kovalev. He doesn't have the skills to beat him. He doesn't have, Kovalev, Triple G, these guys are the future of boxing right now. And I got to throw guys like Wilder and some of these other guys in there, and Pascal, it'll be a good payday for him, but I don't really think that you're going to see much of a change in that. I could be wrong, but that's my opinion.
I agree. I think the outcome is going to be the same. As a matter of fact, I think Sergey Kovalev is going to be a little meaner. I think the fight ends a little quicker.
He might even stop him.
Yeah, well, he did last time, but it was a big controversial stoppage. But I think this time...
Yeah, but I'm saying he might stop him again.
Oh, yeah, I think he's going to stop him early. One last thing I want to ask you. As far as we all know, and we have to, accept, is that Floyd Mayweather is retired. A lot of people don't think he's going to stay retired. We all think that he's going to come back at least one more time. But what's your thoughts on Amir Khan constantly trying to pull this guy? I mean, listen, I have my own thoughts about Floyd Mayweather for a lot of different reasons, but here's one. The guy says he's retired, so right now no one should be calling him out. Once he says I'm unretired, then you can call him out. I mean, what's your thoughts on Amir Khan just not? I mean, shouldn't he be focusing on some other fighters that will actually fight him?
Well, that's what I've been saying. Floyd is retired. Okay, so get over it, man. Move on. I think maybe he still thinks he can get that gigantic payday with Floyd, because it's sad to say, but for a lot of those guys who got the opportunity to fight Floyd and those who fought Floyd, okay, many, I think, were in mainly for the big payday, okay? Because when I look at some of the performances, that were turned in against Floyd, they were quite disappointing. And so, Floyd was the cash cow. And I think that might be the same situation with Khan. You're calling out a guy who already has declared that he's not going to fight anymore. He's retired. He equaled the record. He didn't break the record, which is quite puzzling. If you're going to be the greatest ever, how are you going to tie the record? You want to set a new standard,
exactly,
which he didn't do. So that's where the big question mark, in my mind, is with Floyd as to whether he's going to stay retired or not. But take him at his word right now. And if he comes out of retirement, then start calling him out. But now you need to go and start calling out some of these other guys. Call out some of the guys who are, looking to take Floyd's place. That's where I would go with it. So I think all of this calling out Floyd might have a lot to do with, being able to get a big payday against Floyd. I think has a lot to do with it, Billy.
I think that if he focuses on his promotional company, that could be the best for him and for the sport, so.
Well, that too, yes. Focus on that, some new young talent that you have out there. That's good for the sport of boxing. Certainly needs it.
Yeah. Listen, my man, I appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to you next week.
Okay, Billy, I look forward to being here.
Enjoy the fights this weekend.
Yes, we'll do. Okay.
All right, brother. Take care.
Okay.
That's my man Larry Hazzard, Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey's boxing commissioner, giving us his thoughts on the fights from last week and, of course, the big fight scheduled for this week. And speaking of